The Great Hall of the Galactic Council stretched for nearly a mile. Its walls were made of living crystal that changed color with the mood of those inside. Today, the crystals glowed a cold, harsh blue. It was the color of judgment. Admiral Tay stood at the center of the hall. He wore his best uniform, the one with all his medals and honors. But none of that mattered now. The beings around him looked at him like he was dirt on their shoes. There were 12 species in the Galactic Council. Each one had a representative sitting in the curved seats that rose high above the floor. The Keltari sat at the highest point. They were tall creatures with silver skin and 4 arms. Their leader, High Arbiter Volneth, had eyes that never blinked. "The vote is complete," Volneth said. His voice echoed through the hall like thunder. 11 in favor. 1 abstention. Humanity is hereby expelled from the Galactic Council. Tay felt his heart drop. He had known this was coming. Everyone had known. But hearing the words made it real, in a way that hurt more than he expected. Beside him, diplomat Yuna kept her face calm. She was young, only 32 years old, but she had more courage than most soldiers Tay had ever met. She stepped forward and raised her hand. "I request permission to speak," she said. Volneth waved one of his 4 hands. "You may speak, human." "But it will change nothing." Yuna nodded. "I understand. I only wish to ask one question. What crime has humanity committed?" The hall fell silent. The crystals flickered between blue and purple. Finally, Volneth leaned forward in his seat. "You expand too quickly," he said. "In just 300 years, you have colonized 47 worlds. You breed like insects. You consume resources without thought for tomorrow. You are chaos wrapped in flesh." "We have broken no laws," Yuna said. "You are the law's greatest threat." Volneth replied. "The Council has decided. Humanity will be relocated to the Outer Rim. You will have no trade rights, no travel permits, no communication with Council species. You will live and die in the darkness between stars." Tay stepped forward. His hands were shaking with anger. "The Outer Rim is a death sentence. Nothing lives there. No habitable planets, no resources. You are not exiling us. You are killing us." Volneth smiled. It was a cold, empty smile. "Then die quietly, human. The galaxy will be better for it." The Keltari guards moved forward. They wore armor that seemed to absorb light. Their weapons hummed with energy that could turn a human to ash in seconds. "You have 30 days to gather your people," Volneth continued. "After that, any human found in Council space will be executed on sight." Yuna grabbed Tay's arm. She could see he was ready to fight, ready to die right here in this hall. But dying would accomplish nothing. "Admiral," she whispered, "not here. Not now. We need to survive first. Then we can plan." Tay looked at her. His eyes were filled with fury and pain. But slowly, he nodded. He understood. The walk out of the council hall felt like it lasted forever. Other species watched them go. Some looked satisfied. Some looked uncomfortable. A few even looked sad. But none of them spoke up. None of them helped. Outside, the transport ship waited. It was a small vessel, built for diplomacy, not war. Captain Day stood at the entrance. He was Tay's nephew, a young officer with sharp eyes and a quick mind. "Uncle," Day said. "What happened?" "Exile," Tay replied. "Complete exile. We have 30 days. Day's face went pale. 30 days? To move 8 billion people? That is impossible. Then we will do the impossible, Yuna said. She climbed into the ship and immediately began working on her communication device. "I need to contact Earth. Every ship we have must be launched. Every colony must be evacuated. We cannot leave anyone behind." The journey back to Earth took 3 days. In that time, Yuna barely slept. She sent thousands of messages. She coordinated with leaders from every human world. She argued with politicians who did not believe the news. She comforted children who did not understand why they had to leave their homes. Tay watched her work. He had never seen anyone push themselves so hard. "You will kill yourself at this pace," he said. "I will rest when our people are safe," she replied. On Earth, chaos had already begun. News of the exile spread like fire. Some people panicked. Some people rioted. But most people did something remarkable. They helped each other. Neighbors who had not spoken in years worked together to pack supplies. Factories that usually made consumer goods switched to building water recyclers and food processors. Scientists shared their research freely, knowing that survival would require every advantage. Admiral Tay took command of the military. He ordered every ship, from the largest battlecruiser to the smallest shuttle, to prepare for departure. He knew they could not fight the Council. Not yet, but he could make sure his people reached the Outer Rim alive. On the 29th day, the last transport left Earth. Tay stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Horizon, and watched his home planet grow smaller in the view screen. "Course set for the Outer Rim," Captain Day reported. "Fleet is in formation. All 8 billion souls accounted for." Tay nodded. His throat was tight with emotion. Yuna joined him at the view screen. She looked exhausted. Dark circles surrounded her eyes, but she was smiling. "We did it," she said. "We saved everyone. We saved them from execution," Tay corrected. "Now we must save them from starvation, from cold, from the darkness itself." Yuna placed her hand on his shoulder. "We will find a way. Humans always find a way." The fleet entered hyperspace. Behind them, the Council celebrated. They believed they had solved the human problem forever. They believed that in a generation, maybe two, humanity would be nothing but a footnote in galactic history. They were wrong. In the Outer Rim, there were no welcome parties, no prepared colonies, no friendly faces. There was only the cold emptiness of space and the dying light of distant stars. But there was also hope, because among those 8 billion humans were scientists and engineers, farmers and builders, dreamers and fighters. They had lost their homes, they had lost their place in the galaxy, but they had not lost each other. And that, more than anything else, would prove to be the Council's greatest mistake. Admiral Tay looked at his officers, at Yuna, at his nephew Day, at all the faces that trusted him to lead them through this darkness. "Find us a planet," he said. "Any planet. We will make it our home." The search for humanity's new beginning had started. 70 years passed, like a long, difficult dream. In the Galactic Council's records, humanity was listed as status unknown, presumed extinct. No one bothered to check. No one cared. The humans had been sent to die. And surely they had died. That was the end of the story. But stories have a way of continuing when no one is watching. Commander Minho stood on the observation deck of Station 7. He was 63 years old, born in the Outer Rim, part of the first generation that had never seen Earth. His grandmother had told him stories about blue skies and green forests, about oceans so vast you could sail for weeks without seeing land. To Minho, these sounded like fairy tales. His world was metal and rock. His sky was the black emptiness of space, dotted with weak and distant stars. But it was home. "Commander," a voice called. "Dr. Hana is requesting your presence in the excavation site." Minho turned. Lieutenant Bora stood at attention. She was young, eager, and one of the best pilots in the fleet. "Did she say what she found?" Minho asked. "No, sir, but she sounded excited, very excited." Minho allowed himself a small smile. Hana only got excited when she discovered something important. He followed Bora to the shuttle bay and flew down to the planet below. The planet was called New Dawn. It was the third world humans had settled in the Outer Rim. The first, Hope's Landing, was now home to 3 billion people. The second, Frontier, held another 2 billion. New Dawn was newer, still being developed. But it had something the other planets did not: ruins. Hana met him at the entrance to the excavation tunnel. She was covered in dust and dirt, her hair tied back in a messy knot. Her eyes were shining with excitement. "You need to see this," she said. You need to see this right now. She led him deep into the tunnel. Workers stepped aside as they passed. The air grew colder. The lights grew dimmer. Finally, they reached a massive chamber carved into the rock. Minho stopped walking. His breath caught in his chest. The chamber was filled with machines. Not human machines. Something older. Something alien. The technology looked nothing like anything the council used. It was smooth and organic, like it had been grown rather than built. "What is this?" Minho whispered. "I do not know yet," Hana admitted. "But I have a theory. The outer rim was not always empty. Millions of years ago, another civilization lived here. They built these machines. Then they disappeared." "Disappeared? How?" Hana pointed to markings on the wall. They were symbols, a language no one had ever seen before. "I have been working on translating these," she said. "It is slow work. But I have learned one thing. These people called themselves the architects. And they left their technology behind on purpose." "Hi, on purpose? Why?" "Oh. Hana smiled. "Because they knew someone would come. Someone who needed help. Someone who had been cast out and forgotten." Minho felt a chill run down his spine. It was impossible. How could an ancient race have known about humanity? How could they have prepared for an exile that happened millions of years after they vanished? But the evidence was right in front of him. Over the next 10 years, human scientists studied the architect technology. It was incredibly advanced. Energy systems that could power entire planets. Medical devices that could cure diseases humans had never been able to treat. And most importantly, ship engines that could travel faster than anything the Council had ever built. Minho watched his people transform. They had arrived in the Outer Rim as refugees, desperate and afraid. Now, they were becoming something new. Something stronger. The population grew. 20 billion. 30 billion. 50 billion. Humans spread across dozens of worlds, building cities and farms, schools and hospitals. They did not forget the exile. They could never forget. But they did not let it define them. Admiral Yuna died at the age of 102. She had spent her final years teaching history, making sure the young people understood where they came from and what had been done to them. Minho attended her funeral. Half the population of Hope's Landing came to pay their respects. "She saved us," Minho said in his speech. "She and Admiral Tay. They gave us a chance to survive. Now we must honor their sacrifice by building something worth surviving for." The years continued to pass. Minho grew old. His hair turned white. His body grew weak. But his mind stayed sharp. And his hope never faded. On his 87th birthday, Hana came to visit him. She was old too now, but still working, still discovering. "I have finished translating the architect texts," she said. Minho sat up in his chair. "All of them?" "All of them. And I found something interesting. A message, from the architects to whoever found their technology." "What does it say?" Hana pulled out a small device. A holographic image appeared. Strange symbols floated in the air. And beneath them, Hana's translation: "We were the first to walk among the stars. We built wonders that spanned galaxies. But we grew arrogant. We believed we were alone in our greatness. We were wrong. Others came, and they feared our power. They united against us. They drove us into the darkness, just as you have been driven. But we did not despair. We built. We prepared. We left our gifts for those who would come after. Use them well, inheritors. The darkness is not a prison. It is a forge. Let it make you strong. Let it make you ready. And when the time comes, rise from the shadows and claim your place among the stars." Minho was silent for a long moment. Then he began to laugh. It was a joyful sound, full of wonder and hope. "They knew," he said. "Millions of years ago, they knew." Hana nodded. "We are not alone, Commander. We never were." Minho died 3 months later. But before he passed, He made sure the message was spread to every human world. He made sure everyone understood. The exile was not the end. It was the beginning. New leaders rose. Commander Day, now Admiral Day, took control of the military. He was old, but his mind was sharp, and his will was iron. He had spent 70 years preparing for a day he was not sure would ever come. Now he knew it would. "Build the fleet," he ordered. "Build it bigger and stronger than anything the galaxy has ever seen. The Council thinks we are dead. Let them keep thinking that. When we return, they will learn the truth." The shipyards worked day and night. Thousands of vessels took shape, armed with architect technology that made Council weapons look like toys. Soldiers trained in tactics that combined human determination with ancient alien wisdom. And through it all, the humans waited. They waited, and they built. They waited, and they grew stronger. The Council had thrown them into the darkness, expecting them to disappear. Instead, the darkness had made them into something the Council could never imagine, something that would change the galaxy forever. Captain Siong had served in the Keltari patrol fleet for 40 years. He had seen pirates and smugglers. He had survived 2 border wars. He had received medals for bravery and honors for service. Nothing had ever truly surprised him. Until today, his ship, the Vigilant, was on a routine patrol near the edge of Council space. It was boring work. Nothing ever happened out here. The outer rim was dead. Everyone knew that. Just empty space and dying stars. "Captain," his sensor officer said, "I am detecting something strange." Siong looked up from his report. "Define strange." "A ship, sir. Coming from the outer rim." That was impossible. Nothing came from the outer rim. Nothing lived there. Siong walked to the sensor station and looked at the readings himself. There was definitely something out there. Something big. "Can you identify the vessel?" he asked. The sensor officer worked his controls. His 4 hands moved quickly across the panels. Then he stopped. His silver face went pale. "Sir," he said, his voice shaking, "it is a human ship." Siong felt his heart stop. Humans? That could not be right. The humans were extinct. They had been exiled 70 years ago. Everyone knew they had died in the darkness. "You must be mistaken," Siong said. "Check again." "I have checked 3 times, Captain. The energy signature matches human technology. But it is different. Stronger. Much stronger." Siong stared at the screen. The ship was getting closer. It was massive. Easily 3 times the size of the Vigilant. Its design was unlike anything he had ever seen. Smooth curves and sharp angles. Metal that seemed to glow with inner light. "Open a communication channel," Siong ordered. The screen flickered. A face appeared. A human face. It belonged to a woman with short dark hair and calm eyes. She wore a military uniform with symbols Siong did not recognize. "This is Captain Yuri of the human vessel Remembrance," she said. "You have entered our patrol zone. State your purpose." Siong could not speak. His mouth opened and closed, but no words came out. Finally, he managed to find his voice. "I am Captain Siong of the Keltari patrol fleet. This space belongs to the Galactic Council. You have no authority here." The woman smiled. It was not a friendly smile. "The Council abandoned this region 70 years ago," she said. "They called it worthless, uninhabitable. They were wrong." "How is this possible?" Siong demanded. "Your people were sent to die. No one survives the outer rim. Humans survive," Captain Yuri replied. "It is what we do." She pressed a button on her console. The screen expanded, showing more than just her bridge. It showed space behind her ship. Space filled with vessels. Hundreds of them. Thousands of them. A fleet larger than anything Siong had ever imagined. "We did not just survive," Yuri continued. "We grew. We built. We became stronger than we ever were before." Siong felt fear like he had never felt in his entire life. This was not possible. This could not be real. The humans were supposed to be dead. They were supposed to be a footnote in history. a warning to other species about challenging the council. "What do you want?" he asked. "Nothing from you," Yuri said. "Not yet. Today, I only want you to deliver a message. Tell your High Arbiter that humanity remembers. Tell him that we have not forgotten what was done to us. Tell him that the outer rim was not our grave. It was our cradle." "And then what?" Seong whispered. Yuri leaned closer to the screen. Her eyes were hard and cold. "Then we will come for what was taken from us." The communication ended. Seong watched as the human fleet turned and disappeared back into the darkness of the outer rim. They moved fast. Faster than any council ship could follow. He stood frozen for a long moment. Then he turned to his crew. "Set course for the Keltari homeworld," he ordered. "Maximum speed." "Sir?" his pilot asked. "Should we not investigate further?" "No. The High Arbiter needs to hear about this immediately. The humans are alive, and they are coming back." The journey to the Keltari homeworld took 8 days. Seong spent every moment of it writing his report. He recorded everything he had seen. The ship, the fleet, the woman's words, everything. When he arrived, he was taken directly to the High Arbiter's palace. Volnith had died decades ago, replaced by his son, Arbiter Korvath. Korvath was younger than his father had been, but no less arrogant. He sat on his throne surrounded by advisors and guards. "Captain Seong," Korvath said, "my officers tell me you have an urgent report." "Something about the Outer Rim?" "Something about the Outer Rim," Seong bowed. "Yes, High Arbiter. I encountered a human ship near the border." The room went silent. Korvath leaned forward. "A human ship? Impossible. The humans died generations ago. With respect, High Arbiter, they did not." Seong activated his data device. Holographic images filled the room. The remembrance. The fleet behind it. Captain Yuri's face. Korvath stared at the images. His silver skin seemed to grow even paler. "How many ships?" he asked. "I counted over 2,000, High Arbiter. But there could be more. Many more." One of the advisors spoke up. "This must be a mistake. Or a trick. The humans could not have built such a fleet. They had nothing when we exiled them. They have something now," Seong replied. "Their technology was unlike anything in our records. Their ships were faster and larger than ours. Whatever they found in the Outer Rim, it changed them." Korvath was silent for a long moment. Then he turned to his military commander. "Send scouts," he ordered. "I want to know everything about these humans. How many ships they have. How many people, where they are hiding, everything. And if they resist, High Arbiter?" Korvath's eyes narrowed. "Then we will remind them why they were exiled in the first place." But even as he spoke, there was doubt in his voice. Fear. The kind of fear that comes when you realize you have made a terrible mistake. The scouts were sent. Most of them did not return. The few that did brought reports that made the council tremble. The humans had not just survived. They had built an empire. 70 worlds. 60 billion people. Technology that made council weapons look primitive. And at the center of it all, a leader who remembered every insult, every injustice, every life lost in the darkness. His name was Emperor Sung. He was the grandson of the exiled generation. And he was coming to collect a debt that was 70 years overdue. The galaxy had forgotten about humanity. Now it was about to remember. Emperor Sung sat on his throne in the Great Hall of New Earth. The palace had been built to match the descriptions from old records, with tall columns and wide windows that looked out over endless green fields. It was not the original Earth. That world was still in council space, untouched and waiting. But it was close enough to remind people of what they had lost, and what they would reclaim. Sung was 52 years old. He had his grandmother Yuna's calm eyes, and his grandfather Tae's iron will. He had grown up hearing stories of the exile. He had studied every detail of that day, every word spoken in the council hall. He knew the names of every arbiter who had voted against humanity. He knew the exact wording of the sentence that had condemned his people to death. He had not forgotten. He would never forget. "The Council has received our message, Emperor," Admiral Nari reported. She stood at attention before the throne. She was the finest military commander humanity had ever produced. A woman whose strategic mind had won dozens of simulated battles against Council fleets. Soon, those battles would be real. "And their response?" Sung asked. "They demand that we surrender our fleet and return to the Outer Rim. They say our expansion is a violation of the exile decree." Sung laughed. It was a cold, bitter sound. "The exile decree. They still think they have authority over us. After 70 years, after everything we have built." He stood from his throne and walked to the window. Outside, ships were rising into the sky, joining the fleet that orbited above the planet. Thousands of vessels, each one carrying soldiers who had trained their entire lives for this moment. "Send another message," Sung said. "Tell the Council that the human empire demands full recognition of its sovereignty. We demand an official apology for the exile. We demand the return of all human territory, including Earth, and we demand that the Keltari pay reparations for every life lost in the Outer Rim." Nari nodded. "And if they refuse?" Sung turned to face her. His expression was calm, but his eyes burned with determination. "Then show them what refusal costs." The Council refused. Of course they refused. They could not admit that they had been wrong. They could not acknowledge that their greatest mistake had created their greatest threat. Pride would not allow it. High Arbiter Korvath sent his response with contempt. "The humans are still nothing but animals pretending to be civilized. The Council will crush them like insects." Admiral Nari received the message aboard her flagship, the Vengeance. She read it twice, then smiled. "Admiral?" her second-in-command asked. "What are your orders?" Nari pulled up a holographic map of Council space. It showed trade routes, supply lines, communication networks. The entire economic structure of the Galactic Council was laid out before her like a puzzle. "We are not going to fight them," she said. "Not yet. Fighting would cost lives. Human lives. And we have already lost enough of those." She pointed to specific points on the map: gateway stations, trade hubs, critical junctions where cargo ships had to pass. "We are going to strangle them. Slowly, quietly, without firing a single shot." The blockade began 3 days later. Human ships appeared at every major trade route in Council space. They did not attack. They did not threaten. They simply existed. Massive and silent, blocking the paths that commerce needed to travel. The Council's economy depended on trade. Different species produced different resources. The Keltari made weapons. The Vornan grew food. The Telex mined rare minerals. Without trade, none of them could survive alone. Within 2 weeks, shortages began. Food prices doubled, then tripled. Factories shut down because they could not get materials. Ships sat idle in ports, afraid to travel without protection. Korvath was furious. He ordered his military to break through the blockade. The Keltari fleet attacked a human position near the Vornan homeworld. They never stood a chance. Admiral Nari had anticipated the attack. Her ships were faster, her weapons more powerful, her tactics more refined. The Keltari fleet was destroyed in less than an hour. Not a single human ship was scratched. "Send the survivors back to Korvath," Nari ordered. "Let them tell him what they saw." The survivors told their story. The Council members listened in horror. The humans had technology that seemed like magic. Ships that could appear and disappear at will, weapons that could pierce the strongest shields. Commanders who fought with precision that bordered on prophecy. And through it all, the blockade continued. More worlds began to suffer. More people began to starve. More voices began to question whether the Council had made a terrible mistake 70 years ago. On the Keltari homeworld, riots broke out. Citizens demanded that Korvath negotiate. They demanded that he apologize. They demanded that he save them from the disaster that his pride had created. Korvath refused. He sent more fleets. They all failed. After 2 months, the council was on the edge of collapse. Species that had been allies for centuries began to turn against each other. The Vornan accused the Keltari of dragging them into a war they could not win. The Telex threatened to make a separate peace with humanity. The entire foundation of galactic civilization was cracking apart. Emperor Sung watched it all from New Earth. He felt no joy in the council's suffering. He had never wanted this. All he had wanted was recognition, respect, a place among the stars that his people had been denied. They could end this at any time, he said to Admiral Nari. All they have to do is acknowledge us. Reader flew. Okay, Nari nodded. Pride is a powerful thing, Emperor. Sometimes people would rather die than admit they were wrong. Then they are fools. Yes, but they are fools who are running out of time. On the 83rd day of the blockade, a message arrived from the council. It was not from Korvath. It was from a coalition of other species, begging for peace. We recognize the human empire as a sovereign nation, the message said. We apologize for the injustices of the past. We ask only that you end the blockade and allow trade to resume. We will give you whatever you want. Please, our people are dying, Sung read the message carefully. Then he looked at Nari. What about the Keltari? What about Korvath? There has been a change in their government, Nari replied. Korvath was removed from power last night. His own people turned against him. The new High Arbiter is named Reveth. She is young and said to be moderate. Sung nodded slowly. This was what he had been waiting for. Not revenge, not destruction, just acknowledgement. Just justice. Contact Reveth, he said. Tell her I am willing to meet. Tell her that humanity does not seek the Council's destruction. We only seek our rightful place in the galaxy. And if she refuses? Sung looked out the window at the fleet above. At the Empire, his people had built from nothing. At the proof that humanity could not be destroyed. No matter how hard others tried. She will not refuse, he said. She cannot afford to. The meeting was arranged. The future of the galaxy would be decided. And humanity would finally take its place among the stars. The Great Hall of the Galactic Council looked different now. The living crystals that lined the walls glowed soft gold instead of cold blue. It was the color of hope, the color of new beginnings. Emperor Sung walked down the central aisle with his head held high. Behind him came Admiral Nari and a small group of human delegates. They wore no armor, carried no weapons. They came as equals, not as conquerors. The seats that rose along the walls were mostly empty. The Galactic Council, that ancient institution that had ruled the stars for thousands of years, existed only in name now. Most of its members had withdrawn, their economies shattered, their governments changed by angry citizens who demanded peace. Only a few representatives remained. The Vornan, the Telex, a handful of smaller species. And at the highest seat, where Volneth had once sat in judgment, stood High Arbiter Reveth of the Keltari. She was young for her position, barely 100 years old. Her silver skin was smooth, her forearms held stiffly at her sides. She looked nervous, afraid, but also determined. Sung stopped at the center of the hall. The same spot where Admiral Tay had stood 70 years ago. The same spot where humanity had been condemned. High Arbiter Reveth, Sung said. His voice echoed through the empty hall. I am Emperor Sung of the Human Empire. I have come to discuss the future of our peoples. Reveth bowed her head. It was a gesture of respect that no Keltari had ever shown a human before. Emperor Sung, she replied. On behalf of the Keltari people, I welcome you, and I apologize. The words hung in the air. Sung had waited his entire life to hear them. His grandmother had died hoping to hear them. His grandfather had fought to earn them. Your apology is accepted, Sung said. But words alone cannot undo what was done. My people spent 70 years in darkness. Millions died from cold and hunger and despair. The wound is deep. High Arbiter. It will take more than words to heal it. Reveth nodded. I understand. The Keltari are prepared to pay reparations. We will return Earth and all human colonies that were seized after the exile. We will share our technology and resources. Whatever humanity needs to rebuild what was lost, we will provide. Sung listened carefully. These were generous terms, more generous than anyone had expected. But there was something else he wanted, something more important than money or territory. I appreciate your offer, he said. But I did not come here for reparations. I did not come here for revenge. I came here because I believe the galaxy can be better than it was. He gestured to the empty seats around them. Look at this hall. Once, it held the representatives of 100 species. They built an alliance that lasted for millennia. They created peace where there had been war, progress where there had been stagnation. They were not perfect. They made mistakes, terrible mistakes. But the idea behind the council was good. The idea of different peoples working together for common goals. Sung paused. He looked at Reveth. At the other representatives. At the future that was taking shape in this moment. I do not want to destroy that idea, he continued. I want to improve it. I want to build something new. Something better. Something that will never make the mistake of casting out those it fears. Reveth stepped forward. What are you proposing, Emperor? Sung smiled. It was the first genuine smile he had allowed himself since the blockade began. I am proposing a new alliance. Not the Galactic Council, with its hierarchies and its arrogance, but something different. The United Peoples of the Galaxy. An organization where every species has an equal voice, where decisions are made together, not imposed from above, where no one can be exiled simply because others fear their potential. The representatives murmured among themselves. This was not what they had expected. They had prepared for demands and punishments. They had prepared for humiliation. Instead, they were being offered partnership. Why would you do this? A Vornan delegate asked. After everything we did to your people, why would you offer us anything? Sung turned to face him. Because hatred is a poison that destroys those who carry it. Because revenge would make us no better than those who wronged us. Because my grandmother, who saved 8 billion lives during the exile, taught me that the measure of a people is not how they treat their friends, but how they treat those who have hurt them. He looked around the hall one more time. Humanity did not survive the Outer Rim by being cruel or vengeful. We survived by working together, by helping each other, by never giving up hope, even when hope seemed foolish. That is our strength. That is what makes us human. And that is what we offer to share with all of you. We have the mand. We have the mand. We have the mand of the car. We have the mand of the mand. We have the mand. We have the mand of the mand. We have the mand of the mand. Reveth was quiet for a long moment. Tears formed in her 4 eyes. Finally, she spoke. My grandfather, Volneth, voted for the exile. He believed humanity was a threat that needed to be eliminated. He was wrong. Completely, terribly wrong. And I have spent my entire life trying to understand how someone so intelligent could make such a terrible mistake. She stepped down from her platform and approached Sung. When she reached him, she extended all 4 of her arms in the Keltari gesture of complete trust. I accept your proposal, Emperor Sung. On behalf of the Keltari people, I pledge to join the United Peoples of the Galaxy. I pledge to work alongside humanity as equals, and I pledge that we will never again let fear drive us to injustice. One by one, the other representatives came forward. The Vornan, the Telex, every species that remained in the hall. They all accepted. They all pledged. When it was done, Sung stood surrounded by beings who had once been enemies. He thought of his grandfather, who had walked out of this hall in shame and despair. He thought of his grandmother, who had worked herself to exhaustion, saving their people. He thought of all the generations who had lived and died in the Outer Rim, building a civilization from nothing. They had done it, not through war or conquest, not through revenge or cruelty, but through patience and strength, and the simple belief that tomorrow could be better than today. Admiral Nari approached him quietly. "Emperor, what are your orders?" Sung looked at her and smiled. "End the blockade. Open the trade routes. Send medical ships to every world that is suffering. We have much work to do." And after that, Sung looked up at the ceiling of the Great Hall, at the crystals that glowed with the light of hope. "After that, we build. We build schools where human children and Keltari children learn together. We build hospitals where Vornan doctors and Telek scientists work side by side. We build a future where exile is just a story from the past, a reminder of how far we have come." He turned to face the assembled delegates. His voice rang out clear and strong. "The Galactic Council is dissolved. The United Peoples of the Galaxy is born. Let this day be remembered not as a day of conquest, but as a day of healing. Not as the triumph of humanity, but as the beginning of something greater than any one species could achieve alone." The crystals in the walls brightened. Gold turned to white. White turned to brilliant, shining silver. Outside, across 1,000 worlds, the news spread. The war was over. A new era had begun, and humanity, once exiled and forgotten, had risen to lead the galaxy, not through fear, but through hope. The architects had been right. The darkness was not a prison. It was a forge, and it had made humanity into exactly what the galaxy needed.